Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Poultry, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition, we're going to be talking about the National Bureau of Concessions. What is it about? And I asked the question, are we getting a fair share of our concessions? I have with me the Deputy Director for Administration of the NBC. He's going to be talking about that. Also, we're going to discuss current issue. We have a new pope. What does that mean for America, for Liberia, and the world? $26 million spent on egg factory in Monrovia. Is it something we worth celebrating, or we should be kind of concerned about where the $26 million come from and how these people were selected to partner with the government of Liberia to do this business? Fake degrees. Well, one surgeon or doctor in Liberia has been his license has been revoked because they found that he's a fraud. What happened? And is this problem of fake degree, is it bigger than we think? We're going to be exploring that. Also, fire disaster again in Monrovia. This time, New Matadi claimed the lives of 4 kids. What are we going to do something with this old fire? And which of the fire do we investigate? Only Capitol building fire or all fires? We're going to be looking into that. Let me welcome our guest, Honorable Billclintosh B.N. Kamara. He's the Deputy Director for Administration at the National Bureau of Concessions. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here tonight. As usual, Billclintosh B.N. Kamara, not Bill Clinton before somebody say an American president, former American president. Yeah,
thank
Deputy
you.
Director General for Administration, Bureau of Concessions.
Thank you. Your first time on Focus on Liberia, we want to give you a bottle of water and say welcome and feel at home. Our heart is as clear as this bottle of water.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Let me welcome Mr. J. Victor Nabwe. He's FOL political analyst, and he just got elected or appointed Southeast Regional Chair for CMC USA. Welcome, Victor.
Thank you, Dennis. It's good to be here. And Mr. Uh, Bien, is that Kesley?
Kamara.
Kamara. I'm sorry, the name is not showing up on my end, but welcome. It's good to have you here. And
Thank
also let me welcome our audience and my colleagues on set as well.
Thank you. And since you are now in the official capacity of CMC USA, you will want to change that before we start asking you CMC questions. Let me also welcome Mr. Gabriel M. Carter. He's our global banking and finance expert here and host of FOL Marketplace, the place we talk business, finance, economics, and everything in between. Welcome, Gabriel.
Dennis, thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Let me welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is a focus on Liberia, where we discuss everything Liberia. And let me welcome again all our viewers. Please share the show, invite someone, and let's talk. Let me start by asking our guest, Mr. Billclintosh Kamara. He's the Deputy Director for Administration at that area. Bill, let us start by you telling us, what is this NBC about? And what's your role specifically? What do you do?
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I want to say to my colleagues on the platform, thank you. This is not my first time. This maybe will be my second time.
Oh, yeah, you are right.
In this club, I shared a panel discussion with the former ULAC president, what's his name, from Pennsylvania, who had the issues about whether the progressive was impactful or not impactful, and we discussed other issues during the period of the former regional president former president yeah. So this will be officially my second time here on Focus Liberia. So, and I also want to say a big thank you to you. When I was contesting District 12, Focus Liberia was always there for me. Local interviews, sharing platform, and political engagement. So, and I want to acknowledge that you people play a major role during our time in elections. Well, my name is Billclintosh, B.N. Kamara. You can call me B.N. Kamara. I am currently the Deputy Director General at the National Bureau of Concessions. That has been 1 year, 4 months since we resumed official duty with the government of Liberia. So to your question, say what is the purpose of the Bureau of Concessions?
Yeah.
The Bureau of Concessions, firstly, the history of the Bureau of Concessions. The National Bureau of Concessions was established by an act of the National Legislature in 2010. Firstly, the Bureau of Concessions used to be part of the Ministry of Finance. You had an office that called Bureau of Concessions. The same way we have revenue section at the Ministry of Finance. So it was in 2010, the late Tanu Maulo, who authored the document called Bureau of Concessions. So the purpose was to have an arm monitoring concession, as the same way you have revenue agency called the LRA that used to be on the Ministry of Finance. So the purpose of the Bureau was to be autonomous and integrity, to monitor and evaluate concession company of the Republic of Liberia. So in 2010, the act of the legislature was passed, creating it as an institution by itself to carry out monitoring evaluations and to provide technical expertise on the Interministerial Concession Committee. So it does post and pre-concession. So post concession, after the concession is passed into law by the legislature. So the Bureau of Concession statutory responsibility, is to evaluate and monitor concession on a quarterly basis, annual basis, bi-weekly basis, and to make an informed decision as to what is what is in the Mineral Development Agreement for the Liberian people, for the government, and what are the compliant issues or non-compliant issues that concession companies are not living up to. So our responsibility is to ensure that these things happen under the law, what we call the Minimum Development Agreement, the economic impact, the social impact, the environmental impact, and in terms of fiscal compliance, what is the role of the concessionaire to the government as well. So, and we are also clocked with responsibility to inform the president, which is the president of the Liberia, and the legislature, including our developmental partner and the Liberian people, including both estates, what is the current status or what will be the current status of concessions in the country. So that is the statutory responsibility.
Thank you. And if you kind of pump up the volume a little bit, let want to hear that force. I mean, no, when you're talking, just speak a
Oh,
little
am I
louder.
talking right? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
just speak a little louder.
All right.
All right. So, you said the pre-concession, right? So,
Right.
when or where does your work begin? Let's say a concession company is coming to Liberia,
Right.
nothing is signed yet. You know, do your work begin after it's being passed into law, it's already signed, or you play any role in
Yeah.
evaluating before even it is signed?
Yeah, we play a major role evaluating before even the science, and that is the reason why when you look at the Act of the Bureau of Concession says that the Bureau of Concession shall provide technical expertise on the Interministerial Concession Committee and on the Interministerial Concession Technical Committee. So, for example, you have intersectoral agency like the National Investment Commission. So the National Investment Commission is an incubator. They responsible to receive the concession, build it, be able to show what is there for the Liberian people in terms of incentive, what category of concessions, what a mineral, forestry, um, um, what you call agriculture or public-private partnership. So when you come in, the Bureau of Concession can provide also a technical expertise. So we focus on four major core sectors. The Bureau of Concession focus on four major core sectors, and that is agriculture, mining, forestry, and public-private partnership. So in this area, whenever concessions are put on the table or it will be investor having interest in this area, we provide technical expertise, both pre and post.
Thank you. Before I send it to my colleagues to ask any question, as of today, how many active concession, if you know, do we have those agreements?
Well, firstly, let me let you know that as a government, we inherited a huge liability when we took leadership at the Bureau of Concession. The Bureau of Concession was totally there, and that's why there were not sufficient information or database or data for the legislature, neither the executive to act on. So upon resuming leadership, the entire Bureau of Concession could not provide any data as to what are the concessions being monitored or evaluated or active or inactive. So once we took leadership, the first thing we did was to do what we call an executive summary or review of what we inherited. So being a person from here also was very concerned about system and control in the area of concessions. And we have two deputies. We have deputy for concession, we have administration. So what we first of all did was to do a collective, what we call discovery of concessions database. So that I wish I would explain later to you, not to start with the challenges, but with the question being asked, that was something that really got to us as a government. The first thing was that because there was a speculation that we have 66 concessions. Everybody said we have 66 concessions, but we don't have 66 concessions. We have 48 concessions. Out of the 48 concessions, we have 15 that were active. Out of the 15 active, we only had 2 that was monitored in the past 6-7 years. So 66, as speculated, you have 48 Out of the 48, you have 15 that was active. Out of the 15 active, you only had 2 monitor. So the rest of the period of time, there was no active monitoring of concession activities.
You can give out names of the 2 and names of the 15.
Yeah,
Just
I will share that with you. I think I shared it with you already. Yesterday, you can go through. You see the whole executive summary as to what are the concessions that are active and inactive, and where we are as to the most current active concessions. Yeah.
Gabriel.
Yeah, Mr. Kamara, thank you for taking your time to appear on Focus on Liberia. I think this is very commendable. I think this is, and you guys can keep me honest, this is probably a first of its kind to have somebody from the Concession Bureau actually talk about what they're doing, and give the audience update, the citizen of Liberia update. So I want to commend you for that. This is very commendable. This is the kind of, however, you might want to look at it. This is the kind of leadership we'll look for, in government, in every area of the government, get the citizen involved as opposed to keeping them in the dark. So I want to thank you for that. The question that I have, do you have an estimated revenue in terms of collectively how much all the concessions are bringing in annually?
Yeah,
If you had to guess.
yeah. Thank you. You're like, for example, our role and responsibility in terms of we look at variables in concession in our monitoring and evaluation, and this is where I've said in many cases that we need to come out a little bit to inform the Liberian people and the government as to what is our current position, as to what concession brings to the table to impact revenue. So we look at few variables in terms of fiscal side. There's something called fiscal analysis on concession. That means that you do your compliance audit to see that the concession, what it promised in the mineral development agreement, to say, okay, we will provide this in this period of time after the lump sum payment, maybe in the fourth or fifth quarter, we'll make this available to the Liberian government in terms of revenue. So those were not forthcoming. That's why I said in the past years, from our analysis, there were no active monitoring and evaluations of concessions. So what happened is that concessions were like on a shadow effect. It were just people who were involved, either maybe the legislative caucus or maybe somebody from the executive side was just involved with it. So you could not legitimately track how much concession brought to the national envelope as an institution. So
Yeah.
until we've gotten involved with it now, to say what should be Matadi maybe contribution to the national budget in terms of revenue, because the LRA is clubbed with that authority, but the LRA also have had challenges in the past collecting revenue, and we have said that we are the engine. The Bureau of Concession is the engine because we do evaluation. So when we conduct our evaluation, then we get to know what is the community development fund that maybe this company is supposed to pay to the people of Rivergy. What is the community development fund that this company is supposed to pay? What are the social corporate tax that is supposed to pay? What is there for healthcare? What is there education? What is there for role? So when we do these compliance and realize that the institution is non-compliant, maybe for the period of 3, 4, 5 years, then we flag that to LRA that these institutions have been defaulting government revenue for the period of time. Then the LRA goes in and they calculate and see what is accumulated, and they pay that to the government of Liberia. So since we begin that, and that is the reason why it's surprising to many people when I say there's no 66 concession, there's 48. Out of the 48, there's only 15 active. Out of the 15, it's just 2 that have been monitored for the past year. So imagine how many concessions walk away with free money without giving back to the Liberian people. So because we began active work, there was slight increase in revenue from the LRA where we conducted a series of exercise on maybe the Western cluster and other institutions, which is also ongoing on that.
I
Victor.
will relegate to, Victor to ask.
Mr. Kamara, thank you again for coming. It's good to have you on set. How long have you been with the agency?
1 year, 4 months.
1 year. Okay. I mean, just why do you think out of the 15 active, even though we've heard 66 agreements passed under the Sirleaf government, only 2 of those actually stood up to any scrutiny? No, you're saying 48. So out of the 48, you're saying 15 are active, but yet only 2 are being monitored. Why is that?
Yeah, that's why I've said, well, those were the challenges we inherited as a government. So when we inherited that, we have to move in effectively, like the Western cluster. Western cluster, there was a force majeure for Western cluster, and they went. But then in 2002, they returned and asked for an amendment to their contract. So by 2003, it was at the legislature. So then we quickly went into say, okay, the legislature has to do this, and we have to look at what are the new variables that will impact and improve the community and the national budget. We look at Salala Rubber Company that is being sold to Jet now. Then we have to go back to the forestry sector to look at most of the, because you have Liberia in the kind of demography. You have it in the demography. If you look at the northern side, you will see ArcelorMittal and China. When you look at the south side, you see more forestry in the south. EU logging, all the logging were done in the south. When you look at the western side, you will see Beer Mountain, you see Western Cluster, you will see all the M&G Go and the rest of it. Then you look at the Monserrado. Monserrado is PPP, what we call public-private partnership, where you have APN terminal, you have Jetty, you have Simeco, you have Fuda Corporation, you have Medtech. So when you look at our demography, it's regionalized. So because of, I don't want to say budgetary constraint, but maybe government own way of not concentrating on the bureau that should be holding concessions accountable. So there were many leakages of revenues in the past. So we've come in to put in different measures. What are the measures that we need to put in? One is to train people in the area of M&E, monitoring and evaluations with digital technologies to track concessions. And we have deployed people on the field, which is creating, which we have some challenges in terms of logistics, how to do that, because all our offices, government offices in the past have been centralized. So because of the central government, you have a challenge to run to Sano to go monitor somebody who is digging gold there. Because with the institution are centralized. But if something happening in the metal city, it'll take you 4, maybe 6, 7 hours before you reach there. By the time you get there, maybe the men are called or quick. So one of our challenges we have and we recommended that is to decentralize. Once we decentralize the institution, then we will have officers in this concession area that will be effective and very efficient to monitor the activities that will have impact on the government and citizens. So those are some of the challenges in the past. It will not monitor effectively. But politically, people will say we have concession. Why are the concession not giving back to the Liberian people in terms of environmental impact? Look at the community. There's environmental degradation happening around the country, but there's somebody responsible to monitor that and report that to the legislature or the executive or the Liberian people in terms of illicit mining. How many revenues that government is losing in terms of illicit mining in the north? The encroachments of Ivorian and Burkinabe that are coming through Frangiles in Maryland and maybe Nimba coming to Liberia. Do you know how many revenues? So we are also responsible with this responsibility if we execute fully our responsibility under this government that will attract revenue generation and improve the life of the people. So
Thank you.
technically, yeah,
Thank you. Let me follow up. Let me follow up. You came in during the directorship of Alfred Dennis, correct?
Yeah, after Eddie
Okay.
Dennis.
Okay, so as I recall, you had a very public spat with Mr. Dennis, correct?
No, it was just a policy difference. We don't
Okay.
have.
Well, the point I'm making is you don't shy away from speaking your mind. And I'm
No.
just kind of right. So I'm really confused here. You have been at the agency for over a year. You don't seem to have the capacity to do the work that you're supposed to do, and yet we've heard nothing from you. I mean, you were very public when you disagree with your director general. Why is it you haven't said anything about your inability to do the function for which you're being paid?
So thank you, and that's the reason why we've come out to let you know that what we inherited was very huge. We have to build
Okay.
a capacity. So, for example, you have a bureau of construction that should be decentralized, but they're all centralized. So, if you
Right.
have, let's say, for example, you have a capacity of 100 people. You have director of mining, you have director of agriculture, you have director of environmental, you got director of PPP, you got director, you got all these directors. They're all in muscle rider. For the past 6, 7 years, they're all in muscle rider, taking salary. So how do you think government is going to attract in leases activity or account on this conception? So when we took over, the first things to do was to have a reform of the institution, create capacity, look at the capacity gap, because there were a lot of people misplaced. Somebody did biology, and you took the person all the way to forestry. Somebody did mathematics, and you make the person HR. So because of this misplacement, people capacity could not have gained the kind of relevant we want. So we have to do internal restructuring, look at the capacity, and see how best the civil service could come into to do some reform of the system, which was also done by the civil service agency. We also have to go back to the legislature to ask them for increase in budget that will strengthen our activity across the country. We got to work with the Ministry of Finance to ensure that our DSA come on time, and also to create program that will make us more effective. So it was not that we took leadership and just sat down. It was a total overhaul of the reform so that we can be more proactive rather than just people in the building taking salary. So today, the Bureau of Concessions is currently monitoring the APN terminal under our leadership. The Bureau of Concession has trained over
And
20.
it's, I have a follow-up question.
No, I just wanted to mention, what does this monitoring mean? What do you do when you say monitoring? What are the results of this monitoring?
Good. So when you go and monitor, like you go do fact check, you go and check. For example, um, let's say for example, company X came and said, we'll ensure that schools is there. Maybe after the first 5 years, we'll ensure that the rules is we'll have accessible rules. We'll make sure that healthcare will be good. We'll make sure that we give the community development fund maybe going to be 1% to the district or to the county. So all these layout, all the promises you made, and including government revenue, we look at labor as well, because you're supposed to provide job. And the kind of job you're supposed to provide, you didn't tell you provide contract job, you say you provide job for the people. So when the concession takes effect and this period of time is given you, now after a time the Bureau of Concession has to monitor to ensure the promises you made under the minimum development agreement are fulfilling. Now, if they are not fulfilling, that's what we call monitor, to go and check that focus like Bureau say they will do this, they will do X, Y, Z to see whether they're doing these things to live in line with what they promised at the legislature during the signing of this contract. Evaluation. Now, when we check and know and realize that you are not doing what you promised, then the evaluation, part of the evaluation could be a recommendation for ratification. Part of the evaluation could be a recommendation for cancellation. Part of the evaluation could be, look, the national legislature, we need to enforce and put more pressures that these people do their work. So you monitor, you see, and evaluate to see whether they're in compliance with the law. That's what it
Right,
is.
and
So
that
I
monitoring
have a
also includes the environmental impact, like somewhere to say, wait, the water being contaminated and all these things.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have a I have a follow-up question to you. You mentioned force majeure with I think one of the companies that actually left and came back.
Western
I
Coast, we said
too,
Western Coast, I believe you said.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was Western cluster, right?
Yeah.
I deal with a lot of concession, but actually on the banking side where there's a lot of banks, from bank to bank or multiple banks, partnering on a deal, right? And I know you mentioned also the, pre-work that you guys do. Who actually represents the government in terms of drafting these concessions to really make sure that, yes, there are covenant clauses such as the force majeure in case of events that might happen that is out of your control. But in that case where there's a breach, what we call breach technically in a covenant, right? Meaning Western clusters say they're going to do X, Y, and Z. That didn't happen, or maybe a tornado happened or hurricane happened, they couldn't do it. What are some of the kill provision? Meaning, if you breach a contract, what do they have to do to kill that provision, to get back to make it even, to make it whole? Are there lawyers that actually sit and review these contracts and make sure that the government is protected as well? That if you breach a contract, there are steps you got to take to get to where we initially were.
Yeah, you're right. And that is the reason why I said there are so much reform that is ongoing under the leadership of President Boakai, because these things were not very effective. Not that it was not into place, but it was not very effective in the past. So, but take for example, there are always room for natural disaster. So that assumed the company was in full operation, and out of sudden we all saw the global pandemic that caused a global economic crisis around the world. So at that point in time, the company, like the Metal Sea, they didn't leave, but they draw down the workforce. So because of the pandemic, affected them, which are international company, they had to lay out everybody and leave. So that is not breach of contract. That is the cause of the global crisis. So global crisis could lead to maybe early exit of the concession. So between that period of time, maybe 1, 2, 3 years, while they are away, their return could call for maybe ratification. Their return could call for maybe some level of consideration. Their return could call for maybe the government could look at different atmosphere, looking at the variables of all the natural resources that is extracted. Maybe after that 2 years, the natural resources no longer has a value, as are depleted. Or maybe after that 2 years, the price of the natural resources has increased on the world market. So the National Investment Commission, which has a statutory responsibility for concession, they are responsible. And that's why they have two committees. They have the Interministerial Concession Committee, then they have the Interministerial Technical Committee. But then you have a committee in the legislature that is responsible for concession in the lower house and in the upper house. So these concessions, one is up for ratification or up for review, or maybe for some level of global economic crisis to withdraw. When they're returning, it is the legislature that plays a major part, including the National Investment Commission.
Thank you. Dennis, over to you.
Mr. Kamara, let me ask you this. You said of the 15 active concessions, 2 are being monitored. Do you care to name the 2 that you're monitoring right now?
Yeah. So let me, this a summary you're talking about. So let's start with, we had 9 agricultural companies, 5 natural rubber, Kavala Rubber Corporation, Firestone Labrador Incorporated, Nimba Rubber, Labrador Agricultural Company, and Salala Rubber Corporation, and 4 palm oil companies, Golden Verulium, Lip Inc. Oil Palm Incorporated, Mano Palm Oil Plantation, and Maryland Oil Plantation. Then in the mining sector, we have, you said they are active. They are, of the 3 are active. Base iron ore companies: ArcelorMittal, Labrador, Bill, Shika, China Junior,
Bauchico.
Bauchico, Western Cluster Limited, and Bay Mountain are active with the. But then YMG is inactive.
Yeah, thank you very much. I know you're speaking your limitations here, even though I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. You're the principal deputy. And it seemed to me you came with all the problems without any solution in hand. But you say you've been there for a year now, so I think we'll give you the benefit of the doubt and give you more time. But how do you get to select of the 15 that are active now? Why do you make this decision to select to actively monitor only 2 and leave 13 on monitor? How do you make that decision? I can
And,
understand that you may be limited resource wise, but how do you make that decision?
and when will you
So
start monitoring the rest?
exactly.
Yeah, thank you. And I let the retrospect. I said those were the problem we inherited. Those were the conception from our analysis that we've made from the past regime. As a matter of fact, today we don't have 66 concessions. We're talking about 48. Out of the 48, we have 15. Out of the 15, we have 3 active and only 2 monitor because Western cluster returned and they have something called amendment since 2022. So you have Biochico, you have 8 Aslo Metal, most 2. So because of the inherited problem, these are things that we inherited, the system we put into place to begin an effective monitoring evaluations and holding concessionaire accountable under this regime. Those are the achievements we've made. And I just said that we trained over 24 staff from the
Right.
Ghana Institute of MAE.
Let me
They
ask you,
trained.
were you
Yes.
satisfied with the conditions at B Mountain when these people were protesting and people got killed in there because you were monitoring that, were you not?
And just to end the question, because of the system we put into place, the expertise we train in the area of MAE, monitoring and evaluation, we train people in concession reporting system. Those were not happening in the past. So let's say, for
Okay.
example, you send somebody on the field to go and do monitoring. They don't have the technology, they don't have the tools, they don't have the technical know-how. Why are they going to look for? Even though they have the degree, they have the position director for mining. Where is he going to look for? He had to look for at least 4 or 5 components in the concession. You got to look at the environmental variable, the social variable. You got to look at the fiscal side of the construction. You got to look at labor as well. Because if the message is you employ 2,000 people in 5 years' time, and in the 5 years' time that the government ended in 2023, the MEC will not even employ 1,000 people, that's not compliant. Then when you look at labor, you look at the fiscal side. What was the tax he's supposed to pay in terms of royalty? The environment, because of degradation, what is the environmental impact? What has it done? So once you go on a field, you don't just go look for how much the government is supposed to earn, but what is the local content variable? Because local content is if the concession says they will give contract out in terms of driver, in terms of security, those are local content for the locals. I mean, institutions that are established in that county have the right to pay this contract. That was not happening before. You have concessions who are giving contract to foreigners in terms of engineering, maintenance, in terms of security. So these local contents were given out to foreigners, denying disenfranchising Liberian businesses. So those are things we look at. Now we are currently looking at them to say, look, you can't do this. You can't bring all the Lebanese and Indians from out of the country to be driver. We have Liberians who are able duty driver, they are qualified and capable. We have Liberians who are mechanic, they are qualified and capable. So we look at these things in conjunction to elevate and improve liberalization in terms of local content. We look at the revenue side in terms of fiscal line. We look at compliance issues in terms of environmental and social assessment as well. So these are things the President Barker government is doing other than what happened in the past.
So are you going to come to my question now? Were you satisfied with the conditions at B Mountain?
To say to you, absolutely no. And that's why I've said we're moving immediately. The crisis happened in West, man, how do you call it? Kinjor, right? When the
Right.
crisis happened in Kinjor, we moved
Yeah,
in.
but as a director, over due respect, you moved in after the people, the lid blew off over the can. You had been inspecting these people, you did nothing until the residents actually took matters into your hands because B Mountain was not meeting any of the benchmarks, just like you indicated. They said they would do this. They built no school, they built no hospital, they did nothing. The people were living in cans. And you guys were inspecting the place, and the people got tired and they went in the street to protest. That's how you moved in, correct?
Good. So that's why I want to say I kept saying those crises were inherited crises. Our intervention is what mitigated the crisis and hold Western clusters and Big Kinjor accountable. Because Because as a matter of fact, if you did not monitor somebody for 5, 6, 7 years, what do you expect of them? They were doing their own thing. So when we got in, it became a conflict-prone environment. Only the people have to protest before their right is given them. They have to protest and hold central government accountable, or either bring equipment before government. When we got in immediately, we instituted a conflict mechanism through the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The Ministry of Internal Affairs has something called Concession Conflict Management Team. In line with the Bureau of Concession, we're moving to the sponsors of the executive. Today, some of the recommendations we made to the legislature, crises in this era have been mitigated, and some of the requirements that they've set to fulfill the government and the citizens are ongoing.
So, Dennis, quickly,
Hold on, Gabriel, because
quickly. I'll be very quick. You know, I don't want to play devil's advocate here, but I think we have to be fair to Mr. Kamara, right? Imagine this is not the concession agreements did not just happen this administration. This is 2 previous administrations. It started during the Ellen period, the Weir administration as well. You mean to say that we could not track with all the talent we have in this country? There are brilliant librarians around the world. We could not track our concession agreements in terms of schedule payment, in terms of what is required from each concession company every month. A simple system that can track it. And if you don't receive payment from them this month, you're able to go back to them and say, hey, why are you making payments? 2 administrations under Ellen. And another 6. Wait, 1 second. And another
before you continue, if you were to ask or if you were to ask the previous government, they will say exactly what Bill is saying now. The other people, we inherited it and we are doing this now. Bill has come in and he said, no, they didn't do it. We are doing it now.
And this is what.
Because I don't want you to think, because what can Bill show us that they are doing it?
And this is why I'm giving him credit. I want to be fair to him to say, hey, I can sit on here and grill him all day in terms of the question that I have. But you have to look back at the previous. These are natural resources of the country. You just sign them and you forget it. And the company just go ahead and they're mining, they're doing all kinds of things, and you have no idea. The only thing you care about is the little bit of money you collected up front, which is ridiculous. And this is a whole country. We have brilliant librarians to build a simple system to import those concession agreements, and you put in scheduled payments in terms of the terms of those agreements. If there's a breach, the simple thing you can rely on is the contract. You go back to the contract, you read the clauses and see where those breaches happen. You look at it and say, okay, what can we do to kill this contract? How can we make it whole? Simple system. The next administration comes, you turn everything over to them so they can pick up from there. Say, this is what we did before. Here's the entire system. Here are the staff. This is what we left off. Simple as that. The fact that he is saying here that there was none in existence, well, however true that is, that they're now building from scratch, their training staff, it's a problem on the entire country, not just this administration. It's a problem with all of us. I yield.
Mr. Kamara, can I just ask you this, and thank you, Gabriel. What is the scope of your power as the Bureau of Technical Concession? What can you do and can you not do? I'll give you an example. Suppose you went to B Mountain and you found that B Mountain is not meeting any of the benchmarks that are laid out in the MD, whatever the agreement they have. What can the Bureau do to B Mountain? What is the scope of your power?
Thank you so much. And that's why I would love, I don't know whether the time will be short or we'll have extended so we can elaborate more. The I creating the Bureau, as a matter of fact, after we have read the entire act upside down, one thing I realized, there's no enforcement. There's no enforcing. There's nothing in the act that say the Bureau shall take these steps or enforce. So all you have to do that you try to give is technical advice. So let's say, for example, and I went in and saw the wrong thing you've done. So what I would do is that it's just to report. It's to report to the president directly, and in my annual report, um, report to the legislature, and the legislature either can take action on it. But for example, I went there and saw in the area of labor, you say you employ 2,000 Liberians, but I just went there and saw so Indians working there. I don't have, the law does not give me the power to say once I see them, I can stop them or fine them. The law says I should report them. So we report them to the Ministry of Labor, get the labor involved, and maybe report them to the presidency and they get involved. So our power, we are limited. We monitor, we evaluate, and report. So we do not have that enforcing power that we can do this to this president. And that's why we do technical advice on the IMCT in the Interministerial Concession Technical Committee. So when you go back to that committee, you can flag it and make sure that the NRC capture it, the legislature capture it, the presidency capture it. Like you are saying right now, King Joe. When we went to King Joe, we saw that the citizens were in demand for few things, and their demand, we could not give them the demand. All we had to do was to ensure that we build their public confidence that government has changed. It's a transition. We want peace, equally so. We want to give you what belongs to you in terms of the concession rate of rate of return for concession. So the president got involved, the legislature got involved. There were peaceful resolution, and the company promised to give them what they deserve in terms of roles. So they started building new roads. They started doing different social corporate responsibility. So we report. Once we found these things happen to concessions.
You think
Have
it'll be?
Have you pushed for that
Thank you,
authority?
Give just a second.
Hold on, guys.
Yeah, just a second. Give. I'll pass it on quickly. Do you think it would be reasonable for an amendment to be called for in this the act established to give you more enforcement powers?
Yeah, we and like you reading my mind, we made our recommendations already to see whether we can have some enforcement power, and that enforcement power could be like we report immediately and action should be taken, and if possible, found them.
Right.
If possible, find them if they
Yeah.
reach these things. Yeah.
Thank you.
So Bill, here's my question. And you were saying, okay, because this is not the first time I'm speaking to people in your position, not necessarily NBC, because when new government take over, you say the other people didn't do anything, and then after you leave, the people coming after you will say you didn't do anything, right? So, for instance, do you have a place like you went to Kinjo and you noted down some violations or things that were not right? Do you have a place where you write them down so we can go there and read and say this you're finding, for instance, or
A
this
website or anything.
this is secret? Because if we don't see what you are doing, by the time you leave, they say you're doing nothing. So how can we tell that you are doing what you're supposed to do?
Thank you, and that's why I always don't like to say we inherited this after 1 year.
Yeah.
I'm just saying in 4 months time changes that we put into place. So in 1 year time we've done significant mark at the Bureau of Concessions. So I'm just saying we inherited because those were challenges we saw, but we don't want to base our argument we inherited. What have we done to reach this far? And from the technical reform, because the Bureau of Concessions is a technical institution. Strictly, it's a technicians that work there, forestry, mining, agriculture, accounting, IT specialists, environmentalists. It's a technical institution, but when we took over, it was more support staff rather than technicians. We have almost 62% support staff rather than technicians. So you could barely find the technicians who would say, I'm an environmentalist, except maybe if you have 1 or 2 presidents. So as part of our recommendation in the working, and we don't want to take credit for all. During the period of Madam Salif time, there was something the World Bank supported, which we call the Concession Information Management System. There was something called the cadastre. The cadastre is a repository of concession through the NRC. So you have like 4 or 5 entities within the cadastre. You have Lands and Mine, you have the NRC, you have the EPA, you have the National Bureau of Concession. So because you had the Ministry of Agriculture also. So these 4 core sectors there were cadastral managing them. So if you could click on the cadastral and say mining, and it takes you straight where mining is. Agriculture will take you. Then we have something called the concession information management system. That is the web base that is responsible to track and give you update information as to concession update. But that was sponsored by the usage, but the entire system went down and the
Right.
website was not managed. So we are working now with the Lift project. We are working now with the Lift project to be able to help us. We're building a website, trying to reactivate the concession information management system and
Mr. Kamara, let me stop you right there, because we earlier today we spoke with the chairperson of the Labrador Medical and Dental Council, right?
Right.
And we have the same problem where even to build a website or something has to be sponsored by World Bank or this or that. If you have
Right.
Liberians that can, I mean, even to do a spreadsheet, we gotta depend on IMF or World Bank or UNICEF or USAID, something, right? And there are Liberians in the diaspora crying. We want to do. I remember when the WIA government took over, there was this Liberian who was crying just to build the Executive National website, and they wouldn't let him. Right? You will go to Ghana and get people, which is good, to train. But you have Gabriel, who is a bank vice president. You have Nambo, who is a teacher, and you are fortunate to have me, who knows everything. No, I'm kidding. Why is it that the government of Liberia is never looking at Liberians to do these things, but you go on World Bank, and soon, when a fund dries out, it becomes a white elephant project?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to answer that question, that's not difficult because, for example, you have NGOs. These NGOs have projects. Now you have Live, you have USAID, you have UNDP, you have different in their project portfolio. They could tell you they're sponsoring digital information system in Liberia, 40,000 or 40 million. They could tell you say we're sponsoring small medium entrepreneurship, 2.3 million. So these projects are outlined. So you as a government entity, you go after it. Now, when you go after it, you get a very good project proposals, and you ask them, and they favor you. They also have the requirement. You win a project, for example, you want to train maybe 50% in concession information management system, and under the digital program, is maybe they got 20,000 there for it. You apply for it, they don't give you the money, then those engineer institutions, they have to apply to win the bid to train your staff, which you don't have no regulation on, because you have won the project, but to train your staff, you are not the one going after that institution to train your staff to avoid conflict of interest. It has to be institution that will apply. So whoever we see to train our staff is what we consider. The institution has their own way to build or outsource this contract or insource them, based upon the expertise of person who have the best business or technical skills in that area. If you say, for example, if you say, why should a Lebanese man get a security friend after Matadi, then I'm a responsibility. Why should somebody bring a company to just maintain car maintenance services? That's my responsibility, because in the concession, there's something we call local content, prioritization of local content. That is our responsibility, because that fall in the purview of our role and responsibility to ensure that Liberians who are trained and qualified and prepared, who are legitimate taxpayer, must get these contracts. For example, under the PPCC, if you a Liberian who have a stationary store and you can provide stationery very effective and efficient, we will take you rather than taking Liberty Trading Center that is owned by Indian, because the PPCC say Liberian should have the priority, the first preference. That's fall within our purview.
It's really sad that we have a country and we are just at the mercy of people, because they have the money to give us. Anyway, that's a different topic. But let me go to HPX, for instance. In your executive summary to the president, you said you're going to be concluding the review of HPX in the last quarter. There are also Eventho and all these different companies, concessions that are happening. Do you have update on these latest ones, since you not what you inherited, but when you got in power, what are some of those areas like HPS, for instance?
Yeah, in this area, there, like I said, what my brother Nangbe asked, said, "Do you have enforcement power?" He said, "What is the limitation?" So, when you go do your MAE, you do your technical evaluations, your expert advice is what you recommend. So
I'm mainly asking for status updates on
yeah, so
this.
starter update would be what we until the starter update comes from the executive because we recommend. We say this is what we're seeing, this is what we know about, and the executive is clear with the authority to come out with the most recent update. For us, we've done our executive summary to say this is X Y Z we're saying, and there's a need to look into it.
Is
Can
there
you
any concession for gold? Because since my grandfather was a child, they've been mining gold next door in Bokonjire, right? Do we have concession in those areas? Just anything related to gold or no?
Yeah, you have MNG go. You have I think you have the whole statistic there. You have other institutions that are doing mining gold. But for example, the Ministry of Lands and Mine, the Ministry of Lands and Mine will give you a full statistic as to the export of gold,
Right.
the
I mean,
institution, what
so,
demographic
so
they
there's
are
a
in.
concession agreement with those
Right,
people.
right. I mean,
I said there are concession agreement with
they are
this
concession.
gold mining company.
Yeah, they are concession agreement.
And what they're supposed to do, because I'm using Bokonjiri for instance, the been mining gold is like individual just doing what they want to do.
And that's why you have threshold. You have threshold for concession. And for now evaluation, not everything was concession. Let's say, for example, something below 10,000, it's not concession. Those are PPP, public-private partnership. So most of us took PPP to be major concession, maybe above 500,000 to 1 million. So for maybe 50,000, 60,000, those are public private um, 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 opportunity for Liberian. But if you see Lebanese Americans say, "Hey, I get concession, but my concession portfolio is 15, 25,000, then it should not be a Lebanese man owning that. It should be a Liberian owning that because those fall under PPP. So concession has a threshold. And that's why even in the era of mining, they got class A, they got class B, they got class C. Class A is the concession. Class B is the concession. Class C, now Liberian, those are small pip mining, small people doing artisanal mining. Those are so when you don't know the category of lesson, you will take class C to be concession. So in most cases, you see Liberian will own class C, but then you will see foreigner will still be operating in that class C on what the branch you own. So concession categories are the NRC has done that, and once you go to the NRC to say I want class A money, what category of money go, and this is something that was not done before. Everybody like the man come and mine iron ore, but then in the period of mining iron ore, he's doing different thing. Or for example, the man kind of mine gold, but while he mining gold, he find diamond, right? So the government now is instituting measure to be very strict on what you want. You can say you want gold, but later on you mine iron ore, or you mine iron ore and later on you mine gold. So the mineral development agreement is very strict on that to say what you want to do. If you come for forestry, you're in forestry. When you come to agriculture, you're in agriculture. And the Liberian Business Registry has classification for that. You can say you're importing rice, but at the same time, you're sending different goods while you're importing rice. So concession has category on the NRC.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you, Mr. Kamara. Thank you so much. Let me ask you this. We're talking about HPS, and I wanted to ask you, we're moving on, but let me ask you, the best that you are possibly allowed to speak on this matter. What is your understanding of this apparent disconnect right now involving the government of Liberia and HPS on one hand and Asalameta on the other hand, which we're now witnessing in the public glare? This disagreement with HPS, they're claiming that commitments were made to them, and now the government seems to be backpedaling, and they seem to be upset. And of course, this letter that we all know about. And if you were to advise the government, which side will you lean on as the deputy director for administration for the Bureau of Concession?
Well, my brother Carter asked that question today, and I think I was not the right on it. Every concession is by law. Every concession is by law. The Constitution of Liberia, if you read 34 down, the legislature has the right to ratify, to amend any concession. For example, you come and say, I will let's say for example, I will use a rule
Which
for
which
10.
legislature now? The Kofa legislature or the Kun one? You don't
The
have to answer.
legislature as a
Just
whole.
go ahead.
We have
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
That was a
we
joke.
have
That
three
was a
branches.
joke.
We have three branches of government: one the executive, one the judicial, and the legislature. So the legislature, the Constitution gave the legislature the right to ratify, to amend any concession. So, for example, let's say for example, we sign a concession like let's say Simeco. We sign concession for Simeco to produce cement, like, right? But the time we signed Simeco concession, it was like maybe 30 years back, 40 years back, right? And maybe Simeco say I'm supposed to be the Bourgeois Island. I agree to be the Bourgeois Island for 50 years. I will not move from there. I will not move from there because I signed this agreement to be the Bourgeois Island for 50 years. But if you do a regression analysis, 30 years ago, what was the population in Bourgeois Island? It was less than 20,000. Now the population now is close to 100,000 just to Bourgeois Island. Now just by producing cement cause what we call carbon monoxide and combustion smoke. The legislature can say the time we signed the concession, the population there was 20,000. So the smoke that the carbon smoke could not affect people as much as it is affecting people today. The legislature can look at locality and look at proximity to the population and say this concession must go as far beyond Kakatan. The legislature can do it. The same will roll. Maybe the time when you build a road, the population, the usability, the transport sector was not expanding in terms of competitive advantage. Maybe at that time it was just one monopoly. So looking at the natural resource extraction in this area, the legislature can say, last time we agreed that you want using it, but right now we got multiple people who are investing, extracting that. So we can do multiple user, maybe consolidation. We can do maybe a sharing of the use of permit. So the law gave the government the priority to write the legislature to look at any concession and ratify it at any period in time, which is not law in gospel.
So where is the problem now? So I understand what you inherited and what you're doing now. Where you think the problem is? For which because it looks like we are getting the shorthand of the deal, right? Concessions have not been monitored. Even if they are monitored and reported, there's nothing done. What's responsible for those kind of things?
On our watch, especially on the leadership of President Boakai, there are significant progress being made in this first. I don't want to praise the first year, but I think system overhaul. Now, when you don't do system overhaul of institution, it's difficult to see a better outcome. Before we didn't do system overhaul, we just started running the ball. But now there's a system overhaul in many institutions in terms of policy reform, in terms of law, in terms of reviewing, looking at concession related, looking at the environment, in terms of environmental and social impact, looking at what could be a coordinated effort between the judiciary, the legislature, the executive, in the interest of the Liberian people. So there are system reform, and until you can achieve at least 60 to 70% system reform, then you will have a better outcome, which we are doing right now.
I like that political answer. Do you think the legislators are doing the fair share of the job in making sure, Liberian people, we have a fair share when it comes to this concession? Are they really doing what they're supposed to do?
And that is one, as an individual, not speaking in the capacity of a deputy for administration, I have said that over time that the legislature play a cardinal role in the relief and economic recovery of Liberia. because the legislature is where the concessions are signed, it's where the concessions are ratified, it's where the concessions is amended. The legislature is the direct representation of the people. So, for example, you have the Western Cluster, right? You have the Western Cluster Legislative Caucus. You have the South, for example, where you have all of the forestry and the agricultural activity. You have the South Legislative Caucus, the same way you have the North Legislative Caucus. So if concession in this area are not forthcoming and the people are complaining, they should be the first to look at the needs of the people to ensure that there's a coordinated effort with the executive, either to look at ratification or hold these institutions that are responsible. Because for one reason is that the legislators do not also want to get involved with the day-to-day running of activity at this concession when they are institution responsible. Like, for example, mining area. When there's illicit mining going on in certain community, the Minister of Lands and Mine is called with the authority to hold these people accountable and to ensure that people do not carry on illicit mining. It's not the legislature because they already done the concession. They already allowed the contract to go. But when you see legislators are the one complaining, oh, they're doing illicit mining in my area, they mean that institution that is responsible need to be either supported or to hold accountable for not doing the job. So institutional government that are going on a reform must be more proactive and not to put the blame more on the legislature. Equally so, the legislature gave an oversight, and that's why they have one of the cardinal rule called oversight responsibility. The oversight responsibility is not only to wait for concession to go on the table, but they can look at review of concession because they have committee for concession, not only to sign contract, but to review, ratify, and look at concession are out for review as well.
So I have one question, Dennis, quickly.
And we're so close to get to close the first segment, and then
very quickly. Now that you've been in this role for over a year and a half or 14 months, you said, when you leave from that role, what do you hope to have achieved? And the next person who comes after you, what do you hope that person should say about you? What would they say about you? Basically, given the fact that you guys are in office right now, everything that you're doing over the term of your administration, when you leave, what do you hope to accomplish as the Deputy Director of Administration?
Well, thank you. I don't want to individualize it. And as a government, when we leave power, what do the Liberian people expect? And that's the reason why it's a privilege and opportunity to come to the States and learn and acquire better education and return to my country to help. And we were part of the media podcast and many times holding government feet to fire, especially not doing what they should be doing for the Liberian people. Having an opportunity to be in Liberia is far beyond what I receive as just a salary, but working to ensure beyond my comfort zone, working to ensure that the reality we saw on the ground must be transformed in the not distant future, most especially the rural communities. People are in concession affected community today. How do we transition that? How do the concession have a rate of return on the economy and on the life of the people? How the institution that I represent become more viable, become more supportive to the government, become more decentralized as compared to everybody sitting in the same office. So when we leave government, we want to give what we call a better turnout note to the new government to say this is where we started, this is where we are, these are the challenges we encounter, but thank God we've done this. And if you start on the better footing with this technology, this reform, these technicians, then Liberia can have a growing concern, which means new government can and take a better shape as compared to where we are today. So we can't be complaining we inherited. So when we are leaving, everything we've done in terms of deliverables, if you don't see maybe in the next 1, 2, 3 years, if you don't see a digital website where you can click on and see concession, I want to see money, I want to see gold, I want to see diamond. If you don't see a cadastral, if you don't see a new National Bureau of Concession, then it means we also have failed you, and which we intend not to do because our support is just beyond just support to the president, but to the Liberian people as well.
Thank you. We'll hold you to that.
Thank you.
And I hope Liberians can do that, because if you give it to World Bank again when they leave, then it's down. We have Liberians capable. Let us stop depending on these people. We know better. We work with them here. We went to school with them here. And you could watch Gabriel Dusin there in class. That is why every day we're going to launch. But Bill, I want to appreciate your time here. Thank you so much. We're going to go into part 2, and you are welcome as a Liberian to stay, and so that we can discuss other issues like this one that happened with the 26 million. Does that fall under PP's or concession or what? But if you can stay or you can leave, but the first thing is there's a $26 million project, by the government to produce eggs, and I think according to the press secretary, is a government, they took loan to do this with a company, but I don't take my word for it. Let's watch.
Civil War. There used to be a few of them, but not of this magnitude. But yet, that time the population of Monrovia was not that big. But this is going to be to supply.
Is this part of some of your agricultural dreams?
Very much so.
According to President Boakai, Presidential Press Secretary Kula Fofana, the project cost $26 million US, a loan secured by the government of Liberia.
So this is a $26 million project. That's the total cost of this project for now. Okay. So like I've mentioned, it's a 100% Liberian owned, but it's a loan that the Liberian government took to be able to do such a project. So this is, and the expectation is that, so like the Liberian government is 100% is the Liberia government in partnership with this company to implement this project for Liberia, for Liberians, and contractors, employees, and other people will also be.
We start this part of the farm in December, 1st of December. Just it was compacted only for this house, and we put the concrete and we moved. Now I want to take you another place where the small chicken will come and where they will live for 4 months.
All right. I want to start with you, baby. If you are able to speak to this, what is this about? I mean, I'm not in that area. Concession, PP, the public partnership, but this one is government taking loan. What is it, if you know?
Well, I think there's an opportunity for our community, especially where it's located.
I mean, where does this fall? Is it a company? Is it government? Is it almost something like the agriculture ministry? Is it public-private partnership? What is it?
I think it falls in the range of public-private partnership because the bank become the lender, you become an executor. And at the end of the day, you have to service that loan. You got to pay it back. But the most interesting thing is that whenever you sit around this President Boakai, he's so innovative to understand that he will plan something, he will execute it, and he will implement it to the fullest. So I'm not surprised because one time he said he wants to see the small medium entrepreneurship growing. You want to see cooperative development. You want to see smallholder farmer, poultry, animal husbandry. You want to see this area because we have a good atmosphere for it. So I was even surprised. I was taken by shock when I saw it on the media. They said, "Oh, the president said this thing now is ongoing." Now, the question is, most people come and say, "Oh, this is a project. This project was signed apart." Government is continuity. The fact that a government starts from where you stop, it means it's a good government. And that is the reason why our resources in the past were just wasted, because when ex-president come on the stop here, when another person can create a new project, so that project become a waste of the Liberian money. So whatever we come and see, once it's in the interest of the Liberian people and this deal was done and sealed, if it's about continuity, we will continue and complete almost everything once it's in the interest of the Liberian people. Those that are not in the interest of Liberian people will be reviewed and, if possible, will be canceled. But I'm in the interest of that because it's going to create jobs, it's going to reduce the level of importations of imported chicken. Imagine getting chicken from Turkey, getting it from Thailand and India coming to Liberia. Do you know the chemical that is preserved before it comes to our market? That's why you see most of our people sick. Now it's in Liberia, it's producing Liberia. If we have 3 or 4 of that in the regional base, my brother will be eating organic chicken. Our egg will not be in short of supply. Imagine Liberia importing egg. Can you imagine? We gotta bring egg, we gotta bring turkey, we gotta bring chicken, we gotta bring the cow food, all these things. So when we investing in this area, and those are cooperative development, and that's why I support the agricultural development to support
thank you.
entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Gabriel. Is it according to the presidential press? You said this is a presidential project. You have the agriculture ministry, the finance ministry, joining to do this. They took the loan, and it will be monitored by the presidential delivery unit.
Yeah, the PDU.
Gabriel, you in these things. What is your understanding of what's going on here?
Dennis, I first of all, I want to commend the president or whoever facilitated that project, coming to fruition, for the sole reason that, Bill mentioned, it's going to create jobs. It's going to create the ability for us to stop, importing the amount of chicken or poultry we import. But if you're looking at it from the way I look at things, meaning the mention of 26 million loan being taken out by the government, and they're saying that this is Liberian owned 100%, but yet you're seeing somebody that looks like a foreigner seem as if he's the owner. So it kind of gives you, in terms of how is it structured? Are you saying the government of Liberia owns 50% and this president owns 50%? And if you're saying that the government of Liberia owns 50% and this individual owns 50%, you're pledging 26 million. That means it's grossly understated in terms of how much it costs, right? Because if you put it in 26 million, that means that person put for 50% and that person's putting in 26 million. That means that project is way over 26 million, right? The second part of it, she says 100% Liberian owned. How? Is it through the government, or is it people like yourself, individual who bought shares in that partnership to start the company, right? So for me, that's the aspect on which I'm looking at it. If this is government owned or Liberian owned, but you have a foreigner who's running that, it's just not adding up, Dennis. Even if this is a public-private partnership, this is just not adding up. The guy who was next to the president seemed as if he's the owner. I don't even know his name. Seemed as if he's the owner, and the government just commissioned it. I would like to give them the benefit of doubt to say, maybe this was kind of an incentive to say, if you build this project in this country, in this region, we're going to give you $26 million to make sure you add up to whatever capital you're bringing in to complete it. But then again, the question that remains is, what percentage are we owning? How much percentage are we getting for that 26 million, right? And if this is a public-private partnership, how long is that partnership before does it get turned over to the government entirely over a certain period of time, or does it continue in perpetuity with that level of ownership? So there are a lot of questions. However, I want to commend the fact that it's actually being built and jobs will be created, but you have to look at the structure, how it was structured. So that, for me, those are the concerns. Yeah.
But Gabriel, this is the job being created. Yes. But can we see the paperwork? Is there an agreement, or where do we go to look at something like this?
And those are some of the questions again that I didn't want to dig too deep into this. At 26 million, with a government that is currently constrained financially, 26 million, at what percent interest rate you're taking, right? Again, which the paperwork you keep talking about, if they give you the contractual agreement, you'll be able to look at the structure to say, okay, the government is getting 15% by pledging in 26 million, or they're getting 50% by pledging in 26 million. This is how it was structured. This is who's going to run it. This is maybe they have a revenue split, meaning if the factory is producing, let's say 100 million a year, maybe government is getting 20 million or 50 million. There has to be something in terms of to allow people to understand how this deal was structured and how it benefits Liberia. You cannot just come out in the public and say this is for Liberians, but yet you see a foreigner who literally seems as if he's the owner of commissioning this thing. So there's a lot, as I said, there's a lot of questions, and but I don't want to allow those questions to take away from the fact that this is being built. It just
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want you to get to the point of, anyway, Jane Namwe, Mamaka Belete, this presidential project, we've seen the yellow machines, we've seen the buses from Ghana, and I don't know what process these things supposed to go through, PPCC or whatever. Whoever is this company that we have, is the Liberian owned. From my background, the first thing I said, what was the analysis that was put into this that we really need?
Exactly.
Egg factory compared to snail factory or compared to building the bridge, to Jamaica Road, right? So these are all things, and then with a presidential, who's going to check it? Who's going to do the reporting? Because if government is operating and running it, you secure the loan, you run it, you're doing everything. I mean, who are you going to be accountable to? So many questions. What are your questions?
Yeah, many questions. I mean, we've seen people going to the president and giving fire truck, when they could have taken the fire truck to the fire service. Everything seems to be centralized in the executive mansion, and you're quite correct. It makes monitoring and evaluation very difficult. But I am confused here. Mr. Kamara, as far as you know, what is this thing? Is it a poultry farm? Is it an egg factory? What is it from your understanding?
Well, it's a portrait. At the same time, as you know, that you know about poultry farm, does egg. At the same time, other animal for commercial purpose is there. So, but what is interesting to me is that this is a long-term investment, and for the fact it's a long-term investment, I'm not really worried about maybe.
But Mr. Kamara, we don't have the details.
Yeah, I know it's a long-term investment. It's a long-term investment, except in the case of natural disaster in terms of epidemic. But these are long-term investments. So for the fact that we have the atmosphere, we have the market. Just imagine, do you know how many with the population of 5 million people? Take at least 60% of 5 million people eating imported egg. Just 60% of 5 million people consuming an imported egg. So do your mathematics. Just for one egg in Liberia, just one egg that is imported in the country, we're buying it $50, $50 Liberian for one. So on the average, if you calculate it, you're talking about that's 26 million is a chicken chains. When it's industrialized, my concern is it should not just be one. We should have more than 3, 4, 5 in the regional. I believe in decentralization. I'm not the kind of person who will say, since we got one Kuwait factory and I want Kuwait factory, the same way we have it there, we'll make sure we have it in the south, we have it in the east, we have it in the north, we have it most around its environment in terms of Margibi, Court Addington, Kakatan. Then it will become affordable. Affordability is my concern. Once it becomes affordable, where we're buying our egg like $10, like $1, we say, yeah, affordable now. That will reduce. In fact, what that would do is it will reduce the level of importation of egg, and will create revenue generation for the locals and create job empowerment and opportunity. In fact, it will create a competitive market. So the man who is importing now, the man who is importing will change from importation to establish.
You're making a lot of assumptions here. I mean,
No, it's not an assumption. It's a fact. For
This is all
example,
aspirational. None of you
no,
haven't
it's
seen the
not. It's not an assumption because I'm a business person. Beside me being
No,
government,
Mr.
Have you seen
Kamara,
the
to be fair,
details?
those are aspiration.
Those are aspiration. Have you seen the details of this outfit?
but you saw the establishment, right?
No, I just saw a little clip. I didn't even see any
No,
chicken. I saw
what you
I
saw
all eggs.
was an establishment.
They didn't bring the chicken yet.
Yeah, what you saw
We
was
haven't
an
seen the eggs, right? We haven't seen the chicken yet, but the eggs are
Right,
already.
right. But I am.
So what,
I'm just
why
confused.
did they produce the egg?
Well, where's the chicken that produced the egg?
They said they will bring the chicken. They will bring the chicken, and then
They're just trying to pick your bone.
Well, then
You've seen the
Kamara is
establishment.
saying, you're saying we're talking now locally produced eggs, but where
Right.
the egg? The chicken not even here yet, but the
No,
eggs are
I'm
here.
saying you've seen the establishment. If to say you saw the egg, you saw the chicken, you see the factory, you say, oh, but what the factory? But you've seen the factory. That's the most important thing.
No, I understand you are saying, the end justifies the means. During third time, they say he used to say, when somebody will go and steal $1 million. And then you will say, oh, Bill, the Liberian people money, you say, oh, I built one factory, I built my house, I did this, I did. You say, okay, don't do it again. So the way we get this thing is very important.
If Kula show chicken and show egg and say, we signed a $26 million deal,
No.
this is the chicken, this is the egg, then it becomes ambiguous.
We
what I
understand.
mean is the process, because they said the land is sitting on is like 50 acres, right? And this thing has been built up. I mean, out of a blue, we just see a factory, up and running. Where's the money coming from? How are we going to pay? Who's doing this? Are we not supposed to know? We just say, okay, at the end of the day, we're going to have eggs.
No, you're right, and that's the reason why the FOR, the freedom of information.
That shouldn't be we shouldn't wait for freedom of information.
No, what I mean, you as a fourth estate, you can call for it if you want it. I can give you I can send it to you tomorrow.
No.
You read them.
No, we don't have to go through that. They should put it out so that we know. Government.
No, it's out. It's a public document, though. It's out. It's been out because, for example, you cannot erect a factory without that factory going through the concession portfolio. The NRC has to be involved. What is the money coming from? The bank has to be involved.
But that's the point. You at the concession commission have not even seen any of this.
But I'm telling you, I said we have it. We do post-concession and pre-concession.
Oh, you have it?
How you say I don't have it?
No, that's the first question I asked you. What is this? And you said,
I would like to see it tomorrow, please.
Yeah, that's why you asked me. I say it's the public-private because the bank and the country.
But where are the Liberians? Where are the Liberians? We saw light-skinned people on it. Where are the Liberians?
But and that's why you say people's I don't want you to say, oh, because we saw maybe a light-skinned person is the owner of the place. No. We can characterize that as a matter of fact, Liberia is a country. We are welcoming, we are people of hospitality. By having a foreign national there who was interviewed does not in any way mean he owned it until you can go through the documentation and know what is it for. But and you listen to the press secretary, she said this is a Liberian owned. That is nothing more than that.
Here's the point that I keep pressing on here, and I think Dennis may have raised this earlier. We put out these. It goes back to the basic fundamentals, right? How did they assess that producing chicken in the country takes priority over other things, right? What kind of assessment were done? And I think you made a little bit of a, trying to figure out an analysis in terms of if you buy one chicken at 26 million. Did you see? I'm sure you saw the clip that was played. You saw that building. You saw, well, let's say a series of building, connected building. $26 million invested in it. We are saying that is 26 million put into those buildings that were just connected that we saw. 26 million. At what interest rate? You say you saw it. At what interest rate? You oversee the concessions, right? Here's what we don't talk about, and this is, you are currently running a debt of 2.6 at $300 million debt service, of which you cannot even pay the entire $300 million debt. You're paying only half. You're paying only $150 million. This is not from me. This is from your Minister of Finance directly, right? But here we are again taking another 26 million in debt for an investment that is coming into the country that we could have given this person tax breaks, let's say even 5 or 8 years or 10 years to build this thing out of his pocket. But we took out loans and we said this is 100% Liberian owned, which is not true. This is absolute. I understand you can sit here and maybe argue with each other, but we know this is not 100% Liberian owned. There is no way somebody will come bring their entire capital and give you complete ownership of a factory. This is not true. So this is not 100% Liberian owned. So what we expected from that press was basically someone who was well knowledgeable, give us a little bit of breakdown. This entity owns such and such percentage. Liberian government owns such and such percentage. This is how the revenue is going to be shared. This is how long it's going to take for the government to pay back that loan. This is what we think this is going to achieve in terms of the distribution, right? And at least give us a little bit of meat on the bone that we can chew on, as opposed to just coming and telling us this is 100% Liberian, which we know absolutely is not true. This is 26 million for a poor country. That is a lot of money. Here you are, you were just talking about asking for resources from the Minister of Finance to expand your staffing capability. But we're taking 26 million. We could have given you 2 million out of the 26, which will probably help you have 4 scales to expand the other 15 or 13 concession agreement to monitor that.
To your point, that's the main thing we have not really focused on, the human resource development. If we develop people, these people can develop factories like this. But we think, the factory or the investment can answer the question. If we don't have the trained, manpower, because our most precious resource is the human resource, the human beings in the country that we need to develop.
That's your biggest asset. That is your biggest asset in every country. Yep.
All right. To that,
we just don't have the details on this.
Yeah, no, to that, and that's the reason why I said we, as a government, is trying to empower local content. It's trying to enforce that so the Liberian can own businesses and operate there. If we assume to say, let's have an investor that will have a tax waiver, maybe 10 years or 5 years,
Right.
I'm driving there. Let's have an investor to say we'll give you a tax break and give you an incentive. Come and establish this. But that investor would be a foreign investor who will come and own 100%.
And why you think that only foreign investor can do that?
So do not doubt the ability of a government, a sovereign government. 26 million is a chicken chin for a government that is creating factories. Today, like few of our guys were just celebrating Burkina Faso. Just Burkina Faso. We're talking about owning the factories. 26 million is a chicken chin with 5 million population. We're looking at the consumption rate. I don't even see that to be something complicated. Because it's a long-term investment.
100% of it.
Yeah,
it is.
It's a long-term investment.
But we don't.
I think what you want to know, which you will get information about, is maybe the interest rate. I think that's most important. The interest rate
is more important than the interest rate.
I think that's where, because if, as you saw the video, it's 100% owned. Your concern is the interest rate, and which I think is not even complicated as a government looking at the consumption rate.
All right. Yeah. We'll get the information as of now. There's not much information on this. Yeah. We are only thinking that is Liberian owned, and the ROI and all these things. We don't know, but we are hoping maybe this is one of the areas where we need to pray.
Well, then there's someone one of our audience members is telling us that they're already producing eggs in Bomi in Liberia. So, Mr. Kamara, it's not like that.
Many people that produce eggs in Liberia, plenty.
Exactly.
Egg is being produced. This one is massive.
Well, are you moving on then to the other topic? I think Mr. Kamara.
Yeah, I want us to move on. Because,
but I didn't want to. Okay, let's move.
Yeah,
on.
No, go ahead. Because there's nothing there.
I was going to say the point Gabriel is making. I don't think he's lamenting the fact that $26 million is a lot for this government to invest. What we're asking is what we see, whether we're getting the best bang for our buck. What we saw over there is it worth $26 million. I think that's the point he's making. The investment over there is it worth $26 million? That was just a $2 million investment. That's what we're asking. And you know the details because you say you have it, so you should be able to tell us.
And please share with us because we saw.
No, but if you say you doubt the $26 million investment you saw and you assume it's $2 million, then you got to see the detail. So
no, we're asking. We're not. We want to get the facts out
that's $26 million investment.
Remember now.
And let me understand something. When you say $26 million investment, that is not just the infrastructure. That is including the overhead, the technical capacity, the importation, the logistics equipment. So it's not just the structure you saw as $26 million. That's including.
What about the chicken price in that too?
Is it $26 million?
They're getting the chickens from Nigeria.
You didn't get the first thing you talk about is the overhead. You didn't get that, Dennis?
Yeah. So let's wait because we are coming from a place where yellow machines were brought in the country and they were estimated at this price, and then the vice president went in and they cut it down to this price. So there's not in a vacuum. We have history here. All right, but let's move on. Today there was a fire incident. Our reporters were there around New Matadi, and man, fire. And when you see the structure that is burning, this place looked like a zinc shack, right? In the middle of, and 4 kids lost their life. They called fire service. I mean, you don't expect anything from fire service, even though I saw a celebration. They were celebrating World Firefighter Day. And I saw fire service people marching in the street, people clapping. I said, you not even put out one fire since you were established and you're celebrating. But this is sad. This is just one of the many disasters from fire. And the 4 kids, and they said preliminary investigation looks like it's from a mosquito coil that, got burned, And the more I think about even me growing up and also in Ghanaville, sleeping under all the smoke from mosquito coil, and you are sleeping. It's like you are sleeping in this danger and you're not even aware. This is really, really sad. Victor, another fire. And normally we don't hear or see any investigation, unlike the Capitol building fire, which there are people in jail. There has been nobody held responsible for any of these fires, including the one at Funati House, at Thomas Fowler House, all the different fires. Nothing.
Yeah, Dennis. I mean, first of all, let me give credit to Mr. Jackson Cully in the comment section. He's the one who mentioned the eggs in Bummy. But I don't know what to say about this, Dennis. We've made all the appeals, all the questions raised. You don't hear about the fire service until there is a fire. You don't even know. You don't ever know what they do. I don't remember in my lifetime, and I'm being really generous here, when this fire service ever put out a fire. And somebody will tell me if I'm mistaken.
And we still continue to have it.
Yeah, and we continue to have it, and we continue to have fires, and we continue to have fatalities, and young people losing their lives. And this is an agency that is staffed. People are getting paid at this agency. They have we saw the fire marshal the other day standing with Gregory Coleman at the Capitol building, dressed up like a pimp. We're coaching all in there. If I'm not mistaken, I think we all saw that clip. Gabriel, you saw that clip?
Yeah.
So this is really sad and it's unfortunate. Our government is supposed to help solve problems, but I don't know. I mean, this is not any knocking on Mr. Kamara on set tonight, but this government continue to blame the past government. Everything is blamed on the past government. Well, why did you come? You came because things were bad. You came to make them better. I don't see anything this government is doing to change the situation. You know, I don't. I really. I'm just. My heart goes out to the families of these people. You know, this is really sad. You know, I want to wish them. Uh, sympathy. I hope they find the strength to recover from this. You know, I have nothing else to offer. I'm gonna pass it on. But this is just. It's really sad.
There are 4 kids, and this lady lost 2. She lost 2 kids in the fire. And even if we can train the fire service, since they can put up fire, can we train them so that they at least educate people how to prevent fire? At the minimum, they're taking salaries, and every day there is burning somewhere. Gabriel, could we use at least two from this 26 million to? I'm kidding.
Dennis, I would like to agree with want to concur with Mr. Nangwe that our heart definitely goes out to the family, especially that young lady who lost her children. That's if you never lost somebody, you have no idea what kind of pain what kind of pain she's going through. But I would like to, maybe we can reach out to her. Maybe you can get somebody to get her number to see what we can do for her and those who actually lost, the other people who lost their family in that fire as well. To your point, it's, sometimes when you think we put these people in position, we expect them to do moonshot ideas that are, never been done before. But basically what we expect is the bare minimum. Hey, you don't have the money the infrastructure. I will give you the credit. The infrastructure is not even there for you to get to those places on time if they call you. That's perfectly understandable. But like Dennis said, do awareness. Come on these shows, come on this platform. Even if you don't like the platform, go on the one that you like. Do awareness. You have TV in Liberia. You have there's a TV stations in Liberia. Put out awareness. Pay people to create cartoons, 15-minute cartoon, or even 5-10 minutes cartoon, or even 2 minutes to teach people how to prevent fire. Do that on a monthly basis or quarterly basis. Go out in the community and do fire awareness, because the infrastructure is not there for when people call fire trucks for you to get there on time. So the best you can do is at least teach the people those skills, how to put out fire, or at least how to prevent them. That's basic, bare minimum. Nobody knows what these guys do. Yeah, you may not be getting paid a lot, but you are appointed to save lives. Here then still, we had a fire in the executive mansion. We were able to gather every resources to do investigation, to indict people, to put them in jail. Like I said, it doesn't take much. We just spent $26 million on a poultry farm. You can give somebody $150,000. It will create a series of fire awareness videos that you can play on national TV free for the government. And people will become aware. Social media. But as I said, it's beyond me. Maybe this is why you guys were elected. Dennis, hopefully you can maybe reach out to those family, whatever we can do, to help them. But this is the responsibility of the government. This is a responsibility. I yield.
Bill, not to put you in a position of speaking for government, but does the government of Liberia, do you think the government of Liberia consider this fire business a problem? If the answer is yes, which I expect, what is the government of Liberia doing? Even speaking to it, it's like the only investigation we've seen so far is at the Capitol building where there was nobody died. Here we have 4 young children. And let me tell you, just yesterday, I celebrated my daughter graduating from college. I mean, for any parent to watch your child getting burned in a building and you are looking helplessly, I can't even imagine that. Is the government aware that there's a problem, Bill? You think?
Yeah, firstly, let me say I'm very saddened by this news. I did not see it today, but I express my empathy and sympathy with the family as well. Um, it's a serious problem, especially when it comes to the widespread of fire in and around Monrovia, not only Monrovia as well, in other counties. But there are measures being put into place. I have been able to spend some time with the National Disaster Management that is responsible for mitigating fire disasters and early warning, that my brother is saying, information dissemination. As a matter of fact, they were supported hugely by our donors as well.
Oh,
You have the fire,
donor.
you have the National Fire Service, but let me tell you, Mr. Jara, the our country has a peculiar problem. It has a historic issue. So sometimes we were talking and we don't want to politicize it as much. The reason is that most of the community have gone. There's no alley. Most of the community built on alley. I don't want to use this situation because it's a sad situation, but majority of the community in the city, there's no alley. So sometimes you will see the fire truck will come, then they find a means to enter nowhere. They have to look for a bucket of water, and that's the reason why we need to work outside our comfort zone. And I continue to say that ministers, the government minister, including myself, we gotta leave the office. We gotta get on the feet, my brother. All hands on deck, on boot on ground. We gotta get into the community, like my brother is saying. We gotta engage platform. If I not come on a platform to tell you what is happening, no, a lot of people don't even know whether there's bureau that
No,
exists. This called bureau of concession. A lot of people don't even know whether there are certain bureau exist in Liberia that's government functionaries. So we have to leave these whole bureaucracy of courses and just sitting. We gotta get on the feet and engage the people. Public work needs to work. I know it's painful, but Central Monrovia, when there's emergency, you don't have access. Vehicle do not have access to some community. Go to Oro. Just go to Oro. Go to Cinco. Go to Gaetan. Go to Gannonsville, where I'm from, Chikizu Factory. So that when horse get ready to burn Chikizu Factory at 2, 3, there's no way you can get in. Even if it's a fire truck, you can't get in. So there must be a zonal law, there must be a zonal code, community outlets need to be open, commissioners, Queensville commissioner, Gannonsville commissioner, Bushrow Island commissioner. Commissioner needs to do more awareness. The national, because the National Fire Service is just another team that is responsible to mitigate or maybe create awareness. Commissioner municipality rules. Municipal governor need to ensure that outlets are open to have access to road in terms of emergency. Because most of these fires are occurring today. There are 3 things: either negligence of kennel, power shortage, or power outage, and other means. So it's hard to determine at time. You hear say the man level cannot on or the cannot burn or LEC break out now because there's no
Yeah.
regulation because of there are a lot of
And,
power theft.
and-
But the
and-
most
and-
important thing is when you have convenient access to this community, then at least it can mitigate the casualty. But it's difficult. If you look at that community right now, when you zoom so, you ask somebody right now whether they get road to go to the house, they will tell you say hi. So even if you
I
have
mean,
a fire service truck,
but,
but the
and
awareness is most
it comes
important.
back to the government.
I do
What,
agree with the awareness. There needs to be more awareness, citizens awareness, and whether it could be jingles, it could be the media, it could be any form of awareness. Go into the community work because simplification. The information got to be simplified into different forms, tradition, and the
thank you.
culture. Yeah.
And you can even have your house because there is no, it's like we are living in a place where there is, I mean, how can everywhere be like a slum community that anybody build anywhere,
Yeah,
right?
no rules.
So even in your own house, you can get out.
Yeah.
I remember even before the war, we were building our house in Bannersville. There's no way for us to drive the car and get to the house. So we get to put it down and haul the cement, haul
Yeah.
everything that we brought. We can't get there because the law, whatever we're doing in that country, you can't even create a pathway for people to pass. Every land is owned by people. They sell every piece of it without creating anything. You know.
Yeah, so those are some of the problems. The municipal government, whether the city council, the commissioner, everybody needs to get to work and ensure that the right thing happens. Because, for example, you build a house.
Dennis, though, with what due respect to Kamara, right? The new Matadi is one of those residential areas that was laid out compared to say West Point or other places. That place was laid out. So I mean, I understand Mr. Kamara's. I understand what he's saying. I get the point, but I think the incident is more than just the blockage of an alleyway or stuff like that. I think it's much of a bigger problem. If, for instance, we're finding that the trucks cannot go between the houses, then let's change our method of firefighting. Can we get equipment that will be nimble enough that will go between the houses? Can we get longer hoses? I don't know. But it just seems to me like we're giving up. That's what I'm hearing.
And you are right, because they say the water they get, I think it's somewhere one area.
Exactly.
So that joke we used to have that they will go there and see the fire before they go for water.
Before they go back and come back. I don't think that is a joke. I don't think it's a joke.
So what we could do is, instead of having, because they don't have these fire hydrants, just have wells all over the place that you can go and get water from, right? But based on the firefighter that I spoke with here, they said the country has no capacity to put up even a kitchen burning. So let us know that we can't put up fire. So the best we can do is to prevent it. And one of the ways is, everything is just clustered. Right now, the way people build houses, you have to, even if you have a building and there is fire, you can't get out because you have to barricade yourself in. The place is not secure, even though we say, hey, the laboratory is secure, but no, it's not secure. So you have to, the way we used to have your comfortable, you have to build a fence. Let me bring in callers if we have some callers. 605, we have 9 minutes to close. 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403 #. It's a big problem, but I really think, is anybody going to investigate the same way we're investigating the Capitol building fire? Will people go to jail for this? I'm afraid they will not. Nobody even care, except it's a political fire.
It's a political fire. That's what I was about to say, Dennis. I think they were more concerned with exacting political punishment than, prosecuting anybody. I mean, they want to put in a court fight. That's why it is.
This is not about saving lives. People are dying. For God's sake, Capitol building fire, nobody died, even though this big building burned.
Yeah.
But you see, young
kids. I agree with Magnus. Yeah, he's highlighting what you're saying, Dennis. This is much of its most serious situation than the Capitol building. Nobody got hurt. 4 lives have been lost here, and innocent lives. At least somehow
there's a problem they never caused. The kids didn't cause the problem.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen,
no, but there have been intervention. I'm told that the National Disaster Management, when they
disaster management means you go there and say, "Oh, we'll give you back arrest."
There is intervention. There is an intervention with the family. Yeah, but I do agree on the issues of when the more awareness.
The kids are dead.
Yeah,
the kids are dead. They won't have the opportunity to graduate like my daughter did yesterday. I mean.
Civil education is one of the main things. Like, for example, all of us who have built houses in Liberia, for you to have access to your own house, your own home, is a problem. So that's why I'm saying,
because we don't have a
responsible
government.
Townships, townships, and most of these townships. Do you imagine most of the townships? Like, for example, in Ghana's, I had to go to the commissioner. Where I was supposed to drive to go in, the guy came and said the small spot is just about 50 feet safe for him. And that is just a rule. I went to the township. I said, Commissioner, what are you doing? And the commissioner had issued the man's squatter's right. Can you imagine? The commissioner issued the man's squatter's right. He had a permit. He said, you want to. I said, but this is an alley for the community. We have to come back with a surveyor to resurvey the place before we have the alley. This is a community that owns You got close to 10,000 persons living only one major street. We have to create a situation to create alley for that community. So it's a huge problem, but I know the awareness is most important.
I just wanted to mention this, right? And we're just talking again.
Hold on, Victor. I want to bring in one caller here quickly. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Oh, my name is Benu. I'm calling from Columbus, Ohio.
Go ahead, Benu. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, congratulations for your daughter graduation.
Thank you.
One of the things I really want to talk about, maybe I want to make two quick observations here. One is, yes, the fire thing. I think, like you said, Liberian people, everybody know everything. Nobody wants to admit that they don't know anything. I think we need to go back to the drawing board. Our fire department needs to be maybe dissolved, and we'll go back to the drawing board and actually train people. Another panelist talk about manpower, train manpower. We do need it in every sector in Liberia. We need to go back to the drawing board and admit that, guess what? This is not done and we need to do it. And maybe then we will go somewhere. Yeah. And when I listen to the young man talking about, or I listen about that poultry and egg thing, I mean, all he is saying that it is Liberian owned and we should take it at that. What is the evidence? What are the documents like everybody is saying? I work for the hospital and we built a 25-story bed hospital 5 years ago. That hospital was able to provide about 10,000 jobs in Ohio. I'm just in the kitchen. I'm nobody in Ohio. I'm nobody in this hospital. But I'm able to know that information because they made the information handy. That poultry farm they're building, what is the capacity of the poultry farm? How many jobs is it expected to create? These are just basic questions that at least to be able to answer, the press secretary or the representative of the government are going out there to defend this poultry farm need to be able to tell us this 1,000 birds. In every 6 months, we'll be able to produce X amount of eggs, and we'll be able to employ X amount of people on different shifts. These are information that, I mean, you don't need much to be able to provide that information. But I didn't hear anything about that. All I heard was it is Liberian owned. And take it for that. What do it mean, Liberian owned? 100% Liberian owned. What does that even mean? Yeah. When we borrow money from somebody.
Exactly.
If you're taking a loan, how can it be 100%? That loan comes with attachment. And we all know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Benu. You see, there are a level of women to call. Gentlemen.
You taking loan, you say 100%. I don't get that too.
Thank you, gentlemen, for tonight. We'll go around the room and let's conclude and close up. Let me start with our guest, Billclintosh Kamara. Thank you again for coming. You're closing. You have 59 seconds, please.
Well, I just want to say thank you again to Focus Liberia and the rest of the team, Mr. Namgid, Mr. Carter, and you. I look forward to another time so that we can discuss maybe major issues concerning Liberia. All we can do is that Liberia is the only common denominator we all have. We need to bring our expertise on board. In wherever we have expertise, I don't know what you have, but it is good that where we can bring on board and see how best we can build Liberia. Liberia is challenged. The country has been challenged over the period of time, and all boiled down to administration, the handling of activities in our country. The country is rich. From what I have seen, Liberians do not need to suffer for a job. We don't even need to suffer for anything. We have so much resources, more than some of our African countries around here. What that has been the problem is the management of our resources and how do we put the expectation on the table to look beyond ourselves, not only ourselves in office. So that I look forward to more conversation. Government is not just about political party; it's about ourselves and how do we think beyond just political party and entitlement. And I know very well that my relationship with the government is not just about the proximity of having job, but I look forward to working with each of you to share your contact where you have your expertise, where you can say, Kamara, this is wrong. We think when you guys do this, this can happen in a better way. We are open to conversation. as well. I want to say thank you, and I look forward to the kind of relationship we can build. We need a diaspora capital. Let's see what you see Ghana today. The Ghanaians are going back home because the government in Ghana is opening an exodus and entry of Ghanaian expertise. We want Liberian expertise to go back home to engage in the small medium entrepreneurship. I said the local content. I need Liberian to come and get the local content because foreigners are taking local content because the local do not have the financial solvency. Bank interest rates is high, but somebody like you can go Liberia, establish a mini business. Maybe this chicken poultry that we talk about. These are things Liberian can go for. You understand? Security, money, even money licenses. And, not only to look at the political and criticisms about it, but to get involved with the state of our economy. And I look forward to seeing that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good night.
Thank you. And I will welcome you to sign up when I become superintendent to come and do these things. The first thing is I will ease up the transportation because the e-transportation will be my number one goal, right? So
which
that
transportation? Sea?
Yeah.
Wow.
See, because I mean that's
water transportation, yeah.
Exactly. We have the ferry system, right? So
Right.
the issue of every year road going to Sino is a problem. Ferry can take about how many people ferry can take, and you
And
are
no ferry will get stuck on the sea in 90 days.
Exactly.
But it should be up to date. It should be up to
Yeah,
date.
very good because
You
we'll
may
have
have where the deposit,
because the monitoring and evaluation will be robust. So we don't we'll not have 10 ferry and then we monitor only 2. No, first of all, it will be 10 active ferries.
Yeah.
And we are monitoring 2, and then the other 15 boogers. we're not going to have that situation.
That's
So
that's the reason why for you to get the first one is see will make sure it meet all the compliance measures.
Exactly. They got to go through PPCC. No, we're not going to give it to somebody and say, "Oh, this is Liberian owned," and end of story. It's going to provide jobs. We're going to go through the processes so that the ferry there is, meet the standard to be able to take our people because it's risky. Anything happen, everybody's dead.
Right.
And then we have so that local seaport because when we come, these buses, we put you on the buses and you are going on a tour of the Sapo National Park. I mean, Sino County is by far the richest in the country. You guys don't know. Your thing is Nimba or Bong, but I'm going to show you.
No, but we know. And that's the reason why we want to be robust in monitoring the concession in the Southeast.
Yeah.
Because they have money. In fact, they have gold, they got diamond, they got rubber, they got timber, they got everything there.
Everything is there.
Yes.
Even in my village, if you go in how do you call it? We call it the
So you won't be superintendent for that county now. They have the major natural resources.
They've been pitching it in for the last 4 years.
Right. And besides being superintendent, I'm going to teach math at Sino half free.
Let me mark that. You see, you're going to teach math at Sino half because when they start giving you pay, I will be the first one to do M&E on you.
Free of charge. But your M&E can Victor, like you're close.
This is a policy statement. You made a policy statement.
Exactly.
Let me thank Mr. Kamara for coming on. I appreciate it. I know it's after 1 o'clock in Monrovia. He's been with us here patiently, and he's taking all the beating from us. And,
he's in America now. You see how he likes shining. He's not in Miami.
See. But then I take it back. No, I'm still I'm still gonna commend him first. I see why the internet be on the whole time. He got harmonized.
No, we got Starlink now. We got Starlink.
I got Starlink, yeah. So no, but thank you very much for coming on. I hope that the problems that you're lamenting, your inability to decentralize your operations and all of that to be able to effectively monitor, I hope they will give you the capacity very soon to also be able to enforce some of the observations and recommendations from your agency. I mean, out of 15 active concession, only 2 have been actively monitored. I mean, that's not even, I don't know what percentage that is. Gabriel will probably be able to determine that. It's crazy. So, I hope that, soon enough, you'll be able to do much better than you desire. I think you have very good plans, good intentions, but I think you've been hampered by the lack of support. We're coming back to the. I don't even want to talk about the poultry business. I'm gonna pass on that. But we're talking about the fire thing, right? One of the things to do here in the state, and I'm sure you're aware of this. The police people here, they'll remind you to change your battery. Sometimes they give out free smoke detectors. I am sure if the government Liberia look very carefully, they will find very cheap, very, very cheap smoke detector. I mean, from China, that they can give our people. I know we cook in the houses. There's some kind of way, they have to figure out to give our people early warning so that they can get out. Because right now, it'll be hard for the fire brigade to reach there, the fire service to reach there. So we got to now the sensitization. We got to find a way, to empower our people until we're able to be able to help themselves. I don't know. I hope, some kind of way, some way can be found. But right now, what we have is untenable. And I don't care what excuses the government makes. Look, here, by the time you're 3 months in office, not 100 days, you own it. I don't care what they say the level of you own it. And this government been there over 12 months now. They can't continue to, I think for me it's dereliction. I mean, they're flying all the private jets. They go everywhere. They have this state dinner and all of that. Where the money coming from? So I think they can find a way. We hope that they will come and solve our people's problems.
Yeah.
Some of the things that is talking about. I mean, some of us can sit down here and teach some of the children back home. If we had the Starlink that you're talking about, hopefully they can deploy it. Then they can teach math here at Sano High School while you sit down in his bedroom. We do this virtual instruction. It's possible, So our people, some of the things they should look into. They may sound stupid, maybe they may sound far-fetched, but they really aren't. You send the Starlink deploy over there. People here, a lot of people here got free time. Who may not be able to go home. They can do a lot of stuff here. I know, Cardinal, we're trying to do that. We're trying to help, deploying smart boards and all of that.
Yeah, 1 minute finish.
Okay, because I talk about Cardinal now, my 1 minute is finished. Okay, so listen. Mr. Kamara, thank you very much. I hope you come back again. It was nice talking to you. Good luck to you, my brother.
Appreciate it.
And tomorrow night at 8 or 7:30, we have a Friday night debate. You say, well, politician, come, let's debate national issues.
I'll be here. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. And, does the government of Liberia care about this little issue, about the little guys, about that little girl who burned in the fire? Will the president mount a bullet pulpit tomorrow to talk about this incident? I doubt it. Gabriel.
He's going to do.
Okay. I hope.
Dennis, thank you for having us. Mr. Kamara, thank you for taking the time to join us here. As Mr. Nangwe said, we came at you, but you can take a fight. So thank you for joining us and providing clarity. What you're doing, I hope more government agency can do that. Just basic information. It doesn't have to be detailed. Just a little bit of clarity in terms of the work you're doing, where you're taking the administration, your entity. It will be helpful. But we are not having that, and so it's refreshing to have somebody like you come on here and provide a little bit of clarity, especially on something that is, relating to concessions. So we want to commend you for that. The part I want to close on again, it goes back to this $26 million, factory that we commissioned. I think sometimes we get too excited because we don't have these things happening constantly. So when we have one that actually spring up and it gets commissioned, we get too excited, and most people don't look into the detail. But to be honest with you, I don't think the press secretary knew what she was talking about. You can't say something 100% owned, but you're taking $26 million loan. I mean, whoever has the loan has a percentage into that. So again, hopefully they can provide a little bit of clarity on that in terms of the type of jobs, how many jobs will be created, the economic effect that this is going to create, and really tell us who owns the other percentage, because you can't tell me I cannot agree with you that this is 100% Liberian owned. The other thing is, this is something we talked about, and as I said, and I would double down on this, I hope this is not moonshot ideas. The fire service in our country, do awareness, You can drive. I know it will take you time to get into this community. Do a Saturday or on a Sunday where most people are home. Go to a town hall, maybe do in a palaver hall. Gather people around. Teach them about fire, how to prevent fires. Simply do this on a monthly basis. We're not asking you to fly a helicopter over the places and put out fire with helicopters. Basic awareness. And hopefully, like you said, I hope the president speaks about, this fire incident that happened recently, or somebody speaks about that, So, but again, thank you for coming. Hopefully we can see you more often here. You're always welcome here. You don't seem combative, so that's something we really appreciate. So you're welcome here anytime. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And when you say you can play, if you don't play on Tusafi, you're not footballer. Let's go play on Tusafi. So the man on Tusafi is good. But, thank you very much. I know you didn't win. You didn't win as a representative, but you're still serving. So that's good. I want to thank you.
Where? Which district? Which district? Where?
District 12, Ghana's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck next time.
Thank you. Congratulations to our daughter.
You seem like the kind of guy who could do a lot good in the house. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We still need your support 2029.
I knew it was coming.
On that note, we're going to
Typical politician.
Thank you, but I actually need your number. Each of your number so we can share.
Dennis will give it to you.
If we succeed in slashing the salary of the legislator to $3,000, I don't think many people want to go there. But that's the campaign. We $3,000 is enough.
Not only the $3,000, but the cut to immunity, because you can get $3,000, but if the man getting that immunity. It's what
no more. That's car for 1 year, but 3 years.
I want to talk on that. Sorry.
Yeah, all that will be gone. But
maybe the why you didn't win. They knew you're going to win trouble. But we'll get your number from Dennis too, and you'll give.
Dennis will give me your number.
Let's close with a song that says, whether you are from ACO or you're from CMC. Or ANC, we are all Liberians.
We are Liberians.
Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.